The United Nations has said there are strong indications that Bangladeshi security forces used unnecessary force when dealing with the recent student-led protests. Student leaders have accused authorities of extrajudicial killings and abductions. But these are not the first such allegations to be levelled against state forces. Rights groups say there are dozens of cases that go back many years. And now some family members of missing people are hoping for clarity.
An agonising search for answers. Family members of Bangladesh's disappeared hope the fate of their loved ones will be revealed as political change takes hold.
I've been on the streets for the past 11 years. On December 2nd, 2013, my husband and 3 other people were picked up. Since then, I've not heard anything from him.
Bangladeshi human rights monitors say security forces abducted more than 600 people after former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina came to power in 2009. Dozens remain missing. Her security forces repeatedly denied any link to these disappearances or extrajudicial killings, instead repeating claims that those missing were in hiding or that some drowned in the Mediterranean Sea trying to reach Europe. Authorities also refused to work with the United Nations to investigate the abductions. Bangladesh is party to all core UN human rights treaties except for the Convention on Enforced Disappearances. For the loved ones of the missing, desperate for information, it's meant in some cases years of suffering.
I've been waiting for 11 years. It might sound easy, but I haven't been able to sleep even for a single night in all this time. No one will understand our pain. If someone dies, people can visit the grave, but we can't even do that.
Human rights groups have called on the new interim government to make solving the cases of the disappeared a priority.
And we can now hear from a Bangladeshi human rights activist, Takbir Huda, knows the stories of the disappeared during the previous government's rule. He joins us from Cambridge, near Boston in the United States. Takbir, we just heard from the spouse of one of the so-called disappeared, and she says she's been waiting for 11 years. What more do you know about this?
Well, you see, this is precisely the kind of harrowing stories. There are countless of them where, for the past 15 years, ever since, the previous ruling party really instrumentalized enforced disappearances as a means of punishing opposition and dissident voices, scores of families have just been trapped in this cycle of uncertainty. And here I might point to the existence of a secret detention facility known as Ainaghar, from which at least 3 high-profile, prisoners were released earlier this month, or the day after Sheikh Hasina's resignation. 2 of them were opposition leaders, and 1 of them was an indigenous rights activist. All were presumed to be either dead by their close ones because of how long they had been missing. So you can see that this secret detention facility really served as a way to kind of, punish all of them for being for their dissident voices. And these when Netro News, an investigation portal, exposed the existence of this facility back in 2022, the government responded by saying that it does not exist and instead filed cases against them for quote-unquote spreading propaganda.
Now, since the end of Sheikh Hasina's government, have you learned more about how people were disappeared, how they were treated and why they were taken?
Well, yes. So some of the 3, victims I just mentioned from Ainaghar have started to speak out, and one of them, Ahmed bin Qasim, was defending his father, a senior opposition leader who was facing trial under the controversial International Crimes Tribunal. So he was disappeared when he was directly involved in the preparation of the defense of his father, who was later executed during while he was, disappeared. So the Michael Chakma, who is the indigenous rights activist, was vocal against the militarization of Chittagong Hill Tracts, which is a particular region in Bangladesh where, the Bangladesh army subjects indigenous people to highly securitized and deplorable conditions. So he obviously was targeted because of his activism. But you see, when the U.S. imposed sanctions in December 2021, we did see a dip in the rate of enforced disappearances in 2022. So then the purpose of enforced disappearances in that year actually changed. So previously it was long-term enforced disappearances intended to punish dissidents, but then it became short-term enforced disappearances to punish dissidents who were then later shown as arrested under the book. So, the purpose kept shifting depending on what the context was.
Now, do you believe that Sheikh Hasina herself authorized this tactic of enforced disappearances, kidnappings, really?
Well, it's hard to say without a formal investigation, but here I might point to the fact that in May 2018, she herself announced a war on drugs. And this was followed by at least 466 extrajudicial killings. Amnesty International investigated some of these killings, and they found a clear pattern that before these individuals were killed, they were subjected to enforced disappearances. So there was a combination of enforced disappearance followed by extrajudicial execution. At the same time, high-level government officials repeatedly denied, credible information about enforced disappearances. Her son said that these were just people who voluntarily went missing to avoid legal liability. So, and we must note that in the past 15 years, despite so many allegations, there has not been one investigation, there has not been one conviction, and you don't have that level of institutional non-response unless there's some level of acquiescence at the very top.
Very briefly, we're running out of time. Do you think that the relatives can expect any information from the new government?
I think, yes, this is a moment of hope. So I will reiterate the Meyer-Dug's demands that they have asked for perpetrators to be held to account, a UN-led investigation. And of course, we would also urge the interim government to ratify the International Convention on Enforced Disappearances and perhaps even disband the Rapid Action Battalion who has been directly involved in these enforced disappearances. And finally, I must mention Kalpana Chakma, who has been missing since June 1996. It has been 28 years and we still don't know where she is. So this just goes to show enforced disappearances has been an issue long in the history of Bangladesh, and there are many others who remain missing. We demand to know where they are, and we hope the interim government will make that happen.
The Bangladeshi human rights advocate Takbir Huda, thank you very much.
Thank you.